making a little jig here to trim the long ends of these doors square. See, the problem is I can run them through the table saw side to side because their width is square, but how do I cut the ends square on a table saw? Because the blade, the edge of this starts before the miter gauge can engage it to go across the blade, and so how do we do that? Well, I'm going to make a jig, and I've made this for doing siding. It's going to have a straight fence along here. It's going to have basically a bridge that goes across here with a fence on it, so I can slide my door in under this, and then run my table or my skill saw across with the 90-degree angle here and cut it square. Now, as I make more progress, I'll show you, but right now I'm just screwing the first guide of the cleat along here. I'm going to use a piece of that slightly thicker than 3/4 of an inch so the doors will slide right underneath it. And I need a wider piece up here, like a piece of plywood, to put the fence on. I just laid that across there to illustrate it to you. Okay, we'll come back. So I want my fence to be as accurate as possible, so I'm actually going to pre-drill these screw holes so that I don't split it out. And this little piece that I cut off on this end should be the right length. See how you put that on the ratchet and it almost acts like a little hammer. Maybe get to the bottom to tighten that up. And of course you're pre-drilling from losses here. So now I'm going to rip a piece of scrap plywood that I have around here to 8 inches wide to make the bridge. Turn on my dust collection. Turn on the saw stop. Now with the saw stop, if I touch that blade, a brake will come on and stop the blade in 1 degree of rotation. It's a cut-proof saw, supposedly. I think I'm going to use the wider piece. So now you can see this starting to come together. The scrap piece that I cut off the end down here, I just put over there. I know that's more than 3/4 of an inch, so my doors will slide underneath. That's got a little crown to it. So I'm going to put the crown up. I'm going to start it on this edge a little long so I can get my fence here. And probably for the fence, I'll just end up using a piece of wood like this. And then once I get this part of the fence perfectly square with that fence, I can set the blade shallow, or deep actually, and cut right through here, and that'll cut the edge of that so I know exactly where my blade's going to cut when I put my door in there. And you can do this, I made a jig like this for cutting vinyl siding. And you know, when you cut vinyl siding with a skill saw, you put the blade in backwards so the teeth are dragging rather than hooking. But you can use it for that. You can use this for any kind of cutoff jig in the field. I mean, for cutting rafters or anything, you could make something like this. And if you were cutting a bunch of rafters at the same angle, you know, you could angle your jig, or even put a pivot and make it movable if you wanted to. But I'm just throwing this together for this job right now. So I'm just going to roughly square this guy up. I want him to stick out this way because most of the cutting is going to be right here. So then when I run my doors, I just need to hold them against this fence like this and run my saw. It'll be perfect. It'll be great. And I'll cut the doors face down so that the teeth of the blade pull up and don't chip the far edge. That's just an old woodworker's trick. I got to find my my big square and I'll come back. So are there any tricks of the trades to this? Well, now I'm putting my big square against the fence I've created, raising it up just enough to touch the bridge, and I've marked all 4 sides. So now I know where to put my glue. I do want glue on this. Screws are just good to hold it till the glue sets, right? Alright, so I told you I did that wrong. I'm gonna have to switch this around. Because I want the glue to be, I want the bridge to stick out this side a little bit. So to make sure this is perfectly square, I'm going to drill my first pilot hole. And run my first screw in so I can pivot it. So I'm just going to check. This doesn't have to be square. The fence on top needs to be square. But that's doing good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drill 3 more holes. Because this fence doesn't really need to be that square. I mean, the fence on the bridge needs to be square, not the bridge. This isn't an impact, but it sure sounds like it. Oh, I'm right on top of the other screw, of course. I'll have to drill another. I'm drilling these pilot screws because I want to make sure that these screws hold the 2 boards together. So what that does is if there's a bigger hole around the shank of the screw and there's none in the wood, that'll make these threads slip as it pulls it down tight. So there's a woodworker tip, and I just stripped that out. I'm just going to run another screw in right here. No, I'm not pilot drilling it. It's just a fixture. Alright. Now is the magic. I found out that my skill saw cuts 5.5 inches. So I'm going to make this like 5. I'm going to take that screw out. I got to back this screw up so I don't cut through it on both sides. So you're making this up as you go along. I do have a quick chuck for this. I'm just not using it. Press down on your screw too when you drive it. Alright. So of course the glue's going to hold everything square. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to come off the fence. And we're going to come up here. We're going to come back our 5 and... Oh, we're way back. This fence could have been a lot narrower, but we don't want it to sag either. So here's the mark way back here. fence. Our square line for the fence. Square enough that I'll never see the difference in my eyes. Anyway. Alright. So now we just screw our fence down across like that. And I'm going to leave this guy a little longer to help guide the saw. Now I'm just going to cut this with my coping saw. So they happen to be laying here. Well, it does a fine job. Of course, we don't want this dog to move at all. And yeah, I'm never going to cut that far off. I'm going to bring it out this end a little bit. I'm going to put it right on that line, straight as I can. You following along now, guys and girls? We'll put one right here, and then we'll recheck the square, of course, as we go. Gee, maybe I need to go on Assembly Required, huh? You been watching that show, guys? Kind of fun. Richard Karn, Tim Allen, one of our fellow YouTubers, April Wilkerson, sort of their sidekick. So that's kind of cool. Good for her. I've been watching her for quite a few years now. Come up through the ranks, kinda. Of course, the true test of this will be to cut a piece of wood. I probably should have done that before I glued it all up, huh? Make sure I didn't put any screws all the way through. Alright. Now we'll double check that with the square. One more time again. And that mates up perfectly. Yeah, it does. All right. Let's cut a piece of wood. First off, I have to run my skill saw across it. All right, we're testing and setting up the jig for the first time. I got my favorite beast of a saw here. Now, this will be easy to set the depth because I can look at this and just drop the blade down so she just, come on, back up, baby, just a little bit. So she just drops through. Hey Mom, give me the pliers. All right, there we go. Blade depth is set. So, grab the table saw power. Go. I hope we can cut through a screw for that one. It's just glued. Huh, boy, that glued quick, didn't it? Gotta love Titebond. All right, so there is our square cutoff jig. And to test it, So we're going to take a wide piece of board. Well, that ain't very wide. Got anything else? Yes, I do. I got one about door size. Alright. That looks like one of my table saw cuts, so I'm going to cut the factory edge. See what the factory corner looks like. Damn good. Okay. We'll stick him out an inch. Now, the test of the machine of the day. And if it's all out of whack, I start over. What do you think, guys? You can't get a sheet of paper in that joint. I think it's good enough for my eyes. Good enough for what I am planning on doing with it. Alright, so now I have a shop cutoff jig so I can cut like 22-inch wide boards any length and doors. So this is going to stay in the shop. Alright. Once the glue dries, we'll be all set. Pretty cool, huh, guys? Hey, it's just woodworking. Build your own shop jigs. I've got several around here. Remember the clamp-on one that I've got for square corners too? The one you got to measure. This is one you can hold on your piece of wood. So you can put this on, and that's a square angle there with the saw. You run that across, and you just hold it with your hand against your board. So that's a handy piece to have too if you're out in the field doing something. Alright guys, take care. God bless.